I'm running in the 6th District here in Colorado, and I'm running against what someone referred to earlier, the invisible man, Mike Kaufman. I was on campus today, and when I do go out on campus, I canvass unaffiliated Republicans. And when I meet these people and talk to them, I meet people who are our neighbors, they're Americans, they're courteous, they do listen, but they're frustrated and they're angry. And I think they're frustrated and angry because their leaders let them down. They know their leaders have no plan, and the last 10 years have been a disaster. The problem is, they're not ready to turn to us yet, and we need to make them turn to us to be successful. We will never be able to implement our agenda for change unless we can convince them that we have credibility on the most pressing issues for this year's election, which I believe are going to be ending the wars responsibly and bringing jobs and prosperity back to the district and into our country. A lot of people ask me, they ask, Marine and Democrat, how does that work? Where did that come from? Well, I'll tell you, I had the best progressive upbringing of anyone in this room. My parents, who I admire more than anyone, came from working class families, became as educated as they possibly could. My father was a psychiatrist and a theologian, a very progressive person. My mother, a social worker, earned a PhD while raising 4 boys, taught me the progressive values that I've held my whole life. I put that aside, I have to say, when I was 18, I joined the Marine Corps. When I was 19, while I was in college, and I did serve for a long time as a fighter pilot in the Marine Corps for 22 years. I lived all over this great country, and I've moved to this district, to this community, not this district, but to our community, because that's where we wanted to settle down and raise our children. Find schools, open spaces, the best place to live, we believed, in the whole country. We moved there in 1995. And I was raising my family. I had 2 children at the time. I have 3 now. And I heard the same conversations coming up at the dinner table that I heard around the table when I was young. The fact that we hadn't dealt with, over the 40 years, in environmental degradation. My father used to talk about the 60s and 70s as a doctor. How are we going to deliver health care to people in an equitable fashion? And how are workers going to take part in the profits of our great corporations? How are they going to have an equal say in all that? So we're having all of these same conversations. But the divide between left and right and poor and rich were becoming bigger and bigger through the late 90s. Now we moved to the Columbine area. In 1999 in April, everyone knows about the tragedy that happened in my community. And Al Gore came out and he spoke to us. And he implored us. He said, all of us must change our lives to honor the memory of these children. And I vowed that I was going to do that. I retired from the Marine Corps in 2000. Between 2000 and 2002, I stepped up my involvement in the community. But I realized in 2002, I really hadn't changed my life. Now, 2002 is the great divide between that part of my life and this run for office that I've started. In 2002, the Republicans took over our government. And for those of us who predicted economic and foreign policy disaster, we had our worst fears confirmed, and we don't have to go through the litany of things that happened over those years. But a few of the most egregious things, 4,300 plus dead Americans in Iraq, not to mention the tens of thousands of Iraqis who were killed there. Over $17 trillion in household debt, or household wealth lost, and a doubling of our national debt. Think about how you felt after that 2002 election. But a young senator stood up a few years later, against all the odds, changed the odds with hope and optimism, and he won. And I want you to think about how you felt after the 2008 election, and to compare the two feelings. And how are we going to feel after, on November 3rd, 2010? Will we have done everything we can do to change the odds? In my district, we have to change the odds to win. So I believe this year's election, our credibility, our agenda for change, we won't be able to implement those things unless we have credibility on ending the wars responsibly and bringing jobs to this community, to this district, to this state, and to our country. And we understand that our economy runs on investing in trade, investing in people, investing in clean American-made energy. I'm getting to the end of my time here, but I thank you for listening. I hope you can support me and make sure that we keep control of our government, because we won't be able to implement our agenda for change without that control. Thank you.